to say it's a pleasure to finally be on the Demsley Show. I'm Sheng. I started my martial art training in the art of Kung Fu when I was 7 years old. I studied the Wing Chun system. It was a mixture of Wing Chun and both the Jukulum praying mantis system that I learned from my godfather. I trained with him up until the time I was 14 years old. I started when I was 7. I left when I was 14, and pretty much sporadically after that for about 3 years, whenever he was able to get a chance to train, because at that time his restaurant business was taking off. I can remember when I was 18 years old, I had the chance to go to Hong Kong with him, where I stayed a year and a half with him, which I thought was a totally awesome experience on my part, and I had a chance to see a lot of great things there. During that time, from the time I was say 15, I started training under Sifu Larry Adams in the Wu Xing Chun system of Kung Fu. He taught the 5-animal system, the dragon, snake, tiger, leopard, and crane. It was a southern style. And he's sometimes called Five Family. You know, he got his training under Art Huey Wong, and he had also been training under Gabwa Da of China. And I was with him for about another 7 years, and I worked with him, except during the time when I was in Hong Kong. I came back and I worked with him. And it was really some really good Kung Fu that I had trained. You know, I mean, coming from, let's say, a Wing Chun system, which stressed a lot of directness, sticking, which also the Southern Mantis also had that in common with Wing Chun. You know, a lot of sticky hand motion. The Mantis uses the inside Mo Shu, outside Guak Shu, you know, Chong Shu, you know, using these type of hand techniques, you know, and then going to a Shaolin system where the movements were a little bit more, you know, circular. You know, you have your tiger and you have your snake boxing, you know, and it was just really good stuff at the time when I was training. But I've always had an open mind of seeing what was else out there. You know, I wanted, because I really, at that time when I was when I went to the Shaolin Academy, I was really looking for Bruce Lee's art. I was looking for Jeet Kune Do, and at that time, you know, that was the only, let's say, commercial school that was open, because usually most of the other people that I knew that knew Kung Fu, like from my godfather and his friends, you know, they didn't really have an open school. You know, my godfather ran a restaurant, you know, and some of the other workers that worked in that restaurant, some of them were also Kung Fu practitioners. I wouldn't go as far as saying they were masters, but they knew something about the art. You know, so I had a chance to play with a lot of them and also exchange some things as, you know, I worked out with them. But I wouldn't necessarily call them my teachers, but they did kind of help me along the way. I had, you know, been around as far as like in the tournament circuit. You know, I did Sun Show, you know, which was quite fun at the time, you know. But the Sun Show back then was kind of different from the Sun Show that's going on now. Back then, it was like, oh, so if you're going to use, let's say, if you come from, let's say, a Kung Fu system that uses animal styles, let's say Tiger Kung Fu, you know, let's talk about, okay, let's see if you can use Tiger Kung Fu. Your Tiger Kung Fu versus this guy's Bak Tong Long Kim. You know, it's Northern Mantis boxing. So let's see what you can do with that. And it was like, okay, so you had these little thin gloves on, and this guy could actually get in, and he would be using his Mantis technique as you're trying to get in, you're trying to claw and use your tiger technique against him, you know. But then once the new group of guys came in, they started pushing more of the Western boxing, the kickboxing, and the Swai Jiao throws, or the Kwai Jiao throws, you know, the quick fast wrestling. They started stressing that more. And a lot of us older guys who were doing the more, I guess you say, traditional Kung Fu was just sort of like, either you got on board with that or you just went out. And so from at that point, you know, I just like, okay, well, I pretty much got done with fighting at that point. I did a couple of kickboxing matches, you know, as well. You know, I got into that because I at that time I just basically wanted to lock horns with people at that time. And it was all fun. It was all fun for me, you know. It was a great learning experience. You know, I don't have what you call, I know you had asked me if I had a favorite technique or a favorite style or anything. I don't really have that. I mean, I guess if you even seen like some of my early YouTube clips, you know, people would ask me that, you know, they would ask me what style I actually practice, because most of the topics that I hit on, like balance, stealing, shutting a person, intercepting, shutting a person down, things like that, which really could belong to any style, but I just chose not to just, you know, put the word style out there. This is from the Wing Chun system, and only Wing Chun people do it, which is not true. And there's a whole lot of styles out there that steal balance. Silat steals balance, you know, Bagua steals balance. So it's like, I was just hitting along those areas to get people to just think outside their art, regardless of what style they practice. But look outside the art and say, let's talk about this. Let's talk about intercepting the opponent. When he moves, you hit him. Let's talk about stealing his balance, things of that nature, you know. And that's where I'm pretty much at now. You know, I'm trying to be a lot more innovative. And I have to say that the study of Jeet Kune Do has really helped me with that. You know, training with, you know, with Paul Vunak when I first got introduced to JKD in the late 80s, early 90s. You know, back when he was still doing it, you know, still doing the JKD before he's doing what he's doing now, which I have no idea what he's doing. But it was some awesome stuff, and that opened the door to a lot of other JKD people that I've worked with. I've worked with Guru Daniel Sando, you know, mostly more Kali and Southeast Asian arts, which is a really good art, some really good arts within themselves too, as well as his brand of what Bruce had taught him, you know. And I've later joined the Bruce Lee Educational Foundation. Back then it was called Jeet Kune Do Nucleus, and it was a bunch of people who had trained with Bruce, along with Bruce's daughter and his former wife. You know, they came up with this, and that also put me in line to meet some of the people that I still know today, like Sifu Ted Wong. You know, in fact, Sifu Ted Wong and Bruce's first student, who is not a JKD practitioner per se, Sifu Jesse Glover, is coming to my city, St. Louis, Missouri, in a couple months, and I'll be training with them again. So I think we're going to try to make this a more annual thing where they come out and they train. And the knowledge that these both men have is just like, it's just totally awesome. I mean, there are a lot of people out there as well that has played a big important part in my martial art career, but these two guys, you know, pretty recently have really done a lot, and I've also seen a lot of changes in my own art as well as working with these guys, you know. But other than that, you know, I like running and working out and stuff like that, keeping the body in shape, you know. Skipping rope, you know, because I figure that if the body's not in condition, you know, your speed, your timing, all those things will pretty much go out the window, you know. And it's like I say, you know, there is no, my art is better than your art, but you don't have outstanding individuals that makes the art, you know. And as long as you keep those things in mind, you know, you could be a really good, you know, martial artist. Not only just martial arts, but also a really good human being. You know? So I think I'm pretty much running out of time here. But I want to thank Demsley for letting me be on his show finally, because I know we had talked about this for months. And I also want to thank the people of YouTube and also email for supporting me. And hopefully I get to put a new video soon. Thank you very much.